Hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
It's
Hi, Alicia. How's everything going?
really good, thank you. How are you?
Good. How's everyone else doing? We got a good group on here today. Lots of ladies and gents showing up and hanging out with us. It is day 7 of our creative photo tips, free photography classes, where we want to help you not just get out of auto mode, but really learn how to tell great creative visual stories anytime you pick up any kind of camera. So I know we're all at different levels. I've been having fun with, we just had a visual storytelling class at Lake Eola this weekend, and we had 5 people and everybody was at a different level. So it was a lot of fun, actually. It gave me this challenge to really dive back into hands-on teaching. Um, so who's ready for today's tip? I kind of got to have fun trying it out this weekend at Lake Eola. But Alicia, you've got some photos to show us today, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've been diving into light and color and storytelling and really starting to see our experiences a little differently. And I'll remind everyone, each of these tips kind of compounds on the one before it, right? So we can't think about color before we think about light. Light comes before color, right? So the tip we're showing today is really going to compound on all those different elements we've talked about, and we're on the second half of these photo tips now. We have 6 more to go, this one being the first of 6. And these are all going to be about taking those elements we just discussed in the first 2 weeks and putting them together to really think about what goes inside that frame and what goes where inside that frame. So since Alicia's showing her photos today, I'll share the tip and what it is. Today, we want to teach you guys about what we call the golden rule of composition, which is the rule of thirds. Has anyone ever heard of the rule of thirds? Has anyone ever heard of this term before? Another term that is exactly the same, so we're going to talk about a couple different ways to think of this today, is has anyone ever heard of the Fibonacci spiral? Which
I love the fib.
I know, so do I. And we're going to talk about both of these. So the Fibonacci.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So good morning, Kirsten. Good morning, Debbie, Donna, Amy. I love it. You guys are all here and bushy-eyed and happy on a Monday. This is good. Me too. So rule of thirds, as much as some of you have probably heard this before, we want to kind of take this a step further, but we're going to give you the basics first, okay? So I'm going to have photos, give you an understanding, and then I'll dive into that. When you are doing rule of thirds, you can pull your photos up, Alicia, whenever you're ready. When you're doing rule of thirds, the first thing we have to think about, everyone, is that we need to identify a single focal point on our camera. So as you look at this shot, and I'm going to have Alicia talk about it, think first, this is a natural occurrence, right? Where does your eye go immediately? And that is the main focal point, right? So the floor is yours, Alicia. Tell us about these shots.
So this is a really cool spot, but I immediately wanted to photograph him. I just wanted to make it kind of creative. And I saw this bush right kind of to the side of him. And I figured I would use that bush to tell my story and his story about what was happening and him strumming the guitar. So I used the bush as my rule of thirds in a way, and to move my focus, across this page from right to left, to be honest. I don't know if anybody else's eyes go the opposite way, because they possibly could, but what I see first is the out of focus bush, and then it brings the kind of story in, brings my eyes from right to left as, me telling the story.
let me ask you a question though. And this is what is the key to seeing in rule of thirds, and for everyone listening to kind of see how they can use this term. When you were shooting this though, Alicia, you saw the bush, but where does your eye want to rest as your main focus point?
Oh yeah, him specifically. I focused on
his face, right?
But I used that bush to like make it a little right side heavy on the picture. And I wanted him on that, that third over on the right side.
So rule of thirds is when, if you were to cut this image into, like, think of it like a tic-tac-toe board gets laid right over top of it. And when we're thinking about our eyes resting on his face, right? That's the part that's most in focus. Your focal point is now no longer in that middle box if this was a tic-tac-toe board. So vertical lines, 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, you have boxes going around the outer box. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to put your focal point somewhere outside of that middle box. Now, does everybody see the bush? If you don't see the bush, tell us. It's okay, because I didn't see the bush right away at all as someone viewed this image. So to kind of clarify what, kind of where Alicia's experience is, that bush that is in the lower right-hand corner, and it's kind of creating this blurred out effect in the foreground. That's the key word here, guys. And now it's because your eyes don't want to rest on that bush because it's closer to the camera, but it's not where the focal point is. It takes up a great amount of space, but because it's out of focus, it lets you pull your eye past it into the midground, which is where his eyes are. And then I love how another element that goes into rule of thirds is what's called direction of sight. So notice how the main elements we're talking about here are on the right side of the photo, really kind of top right middle when you look at his face, but they kind of wrap around and his arm comes down to the neck of the guitar. And the last thing I see is the empty space in front of him where he's looking. That's a line of sight or direction of sight, where your subject's looking. You give them breathing room, space, where it's another empty, blurred out area. It's really cool how she shaped them with the butterfly in the background. But no matter what's back there, it comes secondary, right? So she's got her foreground. She's pushed, that's the bush. She's pushed her focal point into the midground using rule of thirds. And then there's this nice empty space in the other 2/3 of the photo. Or actually it would be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? So you have the bush in the out of focus front part. He is in focus in the middle and out of focus again in the background. Does everyone
so well?
What's that?
I didn't realize I balanced that so well. I was just kind of in the moment, Can you hear me?
Yeah, you didn't feel like you didn't realize you were doing it in the moment. You were just being in the moment. You didn't realize you had balanced it. Yeah. And I think that comes with time and practice and learning how to be aware of yourself as you're building your photography portfolio and you're in that moment shooting. Like we've talked about, you're giving yourself that time to let the story unfold. But I also think what I want to really emphasize for everyone who's just starting out and comes to that place where you and I both know, we still kind of go there, but definitely at the beginning, you show up with your camera and you're like, I don't really know how to frame this, right? You're like, maybe you're hesitant, right? And then sometimes we lose the moment. So rule of thirds is actually how we see the world. It's how we move. That's why most movie scenes, every frame of a camera, if you really pay attention now, guys, any photo you look at, any video you watch is going to pull your eyes through the scene using rule of thirds. So, when we're thinking about the easy first step to this, it's realizing where what you want to focus on, that hero, and then thinking about that rectangle, right? Which if you you guys can consider every rectangle you're looking at us right now. It's a screen, right? So whether you're looking at us vertically on a phone or horizontally, think of that like a photo. If I'm here and you focus on my eyes, we're now in rule of thirds right here, right?
If I get out of it, that seems a rule of thirds too.
Yeah, do you guys see her little shelf in the background? So you can use rule of thirds in any way, shape, or form to balance out your shots. Alicia, show us another one. This place is really cool.
Yeah. So yeah,
tell us about this place too. Like what's
called, I don't know if anybody's been to an Insta bar, but it kind of derived from Austin, Texas. And if you've ever been to Austin, you know they have really, really cool bars and a good, like, you know, scene down there. So this place is the first in New Hampshire, and they created this kind of backyard not party scene, but like a really good vibe with these cool painted panels on these walls that can be interchangeable. So people can go and take photos in front of the walls and have fun and have some drinks and appetizers. They have a Winnebago there too that they're refinishing. It's going to have lots of seating, the really cool fake grass. They're going to have fire pits. So we're really excited to have something like this up here because it's not very known to do something like this. And yeah, last week we put a couple models together, and a couple people who have been working on this place brought the 3 best photographers from around here, and we collaborated and created content for this place. And they're actually going to give me and Danielle this place for free to teach workshops and some fun events there as well. So we're
going to go to the Northeast. I know. It's going to be so fun. And so I can't wait to like really check this out, but it's exciting for me too to see these shots because now I'm getting a feel for what it's like to be there.
You'll see there's only a couple more that I am showing of rule of thirds with this person in particular. So you're going to understand the perspectives that I took too, just shooting. And we can go back to some of our other tips that we've already talked about in the last few weeks.
I was going to bring one up before you close this photo down. Guys, light and color. Those were 2 big ones, right? The story's obvious. She knew what she was going to shoot. He's the hero of this moment, and the bush was a part of the hero, and so was the butterfly and the guitar. But light and color. If you remember either of those 2 tips, what comes to mind when you look at this shot? You can think of words like a story if you were to look at this picture and say, what kind of place is it? And I'll just give you my first thoughts. The first word that comes to my mind is warm or sunny, right? Mm-hmm. So why did that word come to my mind?
I don't know who's still with us or who took the last class, but
yeah. So the direction of light, look at where the light is hitting him, right? So what direction is the light coming from? You can tell by his face. You can tell by the shadows on him. You can tell by the color, the warm yellowy tones, right? So these are warmer colors. So what direction, guys, is that light coming from and hitting his face? And I don't know what other photos she's going to show. Yeah, it's coming, exactly, Amy. It's coming from the top left side of the photo, or the light's coming from the left. You can kind of see it coming down on him. And what time of day do you think this is? Based on the direction of light, it's coming from the side, right? Not down above. And the color, I mentioned this warm color. What time of day do you think this is? I don't know. I was not there. I'm asking. Alicia's going to give us the answer.
Okay. Yes, it was later afternoon. The sun was just starting to come down. So it kind of had that warm feel and creating those harsh shadows wherever, there was things behind me. If you think about me taking the photo, it's to my left a little bit. So I had to stay out of the way so my shadow didn't even get on him. know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
So
yes, the name is great about yellow greens. It's that warm, fun, earthy kind of friendly vibe.
yes. And I don't know what the other image she's going to show, but our tip after talking about color and direction of light was changing perspectives. So again, guys, in this idea of practicing and getting better every time we pick up the camera and really going after a great shot, even if she saw this moment and this is epic for social media posting, think about this if you have a business that you want to do some marketing with, this is content this business is going to use for their social media and such. Now they have this nice empty space up in the corner to write, you know, where they can still tell this story. So I'm going to let her bring up this other picture. And as she does, guys, keep this shot in mind and think about what direction, what she did to change perspectives. Okay.
I'm
that's
also going to show you the picture of me taking these pictures. So
okay.
I'll show it on my phone and see if you guys can see it after I show you these next couple pictures. So watch the perspective change. How do I, it's not letting me do it.
Close it out, close it, bottom left, close it.
Yes. Okay, sorry. That was a blonde moment. Here we go. All right, this one is pretty cool. So I took a more creative approach to this one. But as you can see, I still use my rule of thirds. I still interacted with the light and color. Thank you. But I'm still telling his story as a hero, you know, in this moment.
The guitar and the musician is still the hero, but we have a totally different perspective. Now, if you were to compare the two, what's the difference here? Think of a feeling word, right, guys? We're talking about story and connecting to a feeling. So the word that makes this picture feel different to me is intimate. Now it feels more like warm, like backyard campfire warm, right? Because all of a sudden I'm up close with him and it feels more intimate. So you guys who are here with us live, chime in. Let us know in the chat box, like what comes to mind for you. We play the guitar all the time, and now that we've been social distancing, we're like all spread out in the yard. But this shot, if you imagine Alicia's experience of bringing this to life, it feels more intimate, right? Like she's close. And music is all around you and all you have to do is listen. Yeah, I love that. Both of you said that. Two different people from two different places in the world just said they both hear the music through the photo. I love that, guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's because you're looking at what? That instrument now, not just a musician in his space, but now we're looking at the instrument that creates the sound. So now all of a sudden your mind is connecting to this sound that's going to come out of these strings and these fingers, you know, fiddling away on the guitar. And, you know, what I love here too is come back to this word that pulls me into
for a second. What word are you saying?
Color, the word color. When you look at this image, what color makes it feel more passionate or like this music is kind of coming alive? There's a specific color that totally changed here from the picture before. Does anybody have an idea what's coming to mind for me? You know, before we were talking about warm yellows, that golden hour. Yes, the blue. I love it, Callie. So we've got the blue, which is making it a little bit colder, a little bit cooler in color, and bolder, right? So we've got this pink, this blue, this orange. So it's a different side of these earthy tones, because if you really think of this whole frame, we've got about 50% of it that is shadows and browns and dark areas where we can't really see a lot of detail, right? But again, it plays into that intimate, you know, close-up feeling of hearing that music. What f-stop do you guys think of that? Hold on, one more. What f-stop do you guys think she was at for this shot? I don't know if it was different from the one before. I don't know if you remember, Alicia, but I'm going to take a guess. I just want the group who's with us live right now, if they have an idea of what might be your f-stop. So think about foreground, midground, background. Okay, guys, when you're taking a wild guess on what her aperture was here, think about with every scene, you have this depth of field, how much distance is in her whole frame, and then where is the focal point within that distance? Foreground, midground, background. All right, we've got some guesses. Any more before Alicia gives us a guess? We have F5 as a guess. We have F2. These are all great guesses. Anybody else have a guess?
Very close. It was actually at 3.2. F3.2
really?
here. Yeah.
Wow. I would have guessed 1.8. I would have guessed you were on your 50 at 1.8. So see,
well,
I
was on a 24 to 70, but zoomed in. So it created a little bit more blur in the background at 3.2.
So that's a good point to make. I think I brought this up in our visual storytelling class this weekend. Guys, if you don't have a lens that goes down to these low f-stops, a lot of standard lenses and the less expensive lenses, they'll only go down to f3.5 or f4, and sometimes when you zoom in, only f5.6. And you can see as some of these guesses were f2, f1.4. Oops. Oh, you did that.
I'm gonna load the next.
Okay. We need a different kind of lens to get really shallow apertures. However, if you don't have one of these lenses like the Nifty 50 lens, or what Alicia and I shoot regularly is a 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8. If you don't have one of these lenses, you can still create this great depth of field by zooming in all the way first and then going to whatever your camera's lowest aperture is, because it creates compression and it creates that pulled effect that really separates wherever your focal point is from its foreground and its background, right? Very cool. I think I like this one the best because I love seeing his face in the background a little bit. This one's great.
Me too. You can get more of a feeling he's singing, he's in the moment, more of the Winnebagos behind him. I think this one makes me feel like it's framed perfectly. The rule of thirds really is prominent here. And it makes me have that think of the Fibonacci spiral and how it continuously go around the photo. So if anybody wants to look up the Fibonacci spiral and how it works with photography.
I might be able to pull it up right now. So guys, take a wild guess. What was your f-stop? What colors do you see that are being mimicked and help bring this? Okay, so rule of thirds is our tip today. So thinking in rule of thirds, and I'm going to bring up the Fibonacci spiral as another way to think of rule of thirds. How does your eye move through this frame? Where does it go first? Where does it go second? That's how you start to connect as a viewer, and you really.
We lost you.
Fibonacci spiral. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah, these were fun to do. I actually can show you where I was taking the. I uploaded that photo, so I'll show everybody where it's uploading. Okay, where is it? Maybe not yet. Okay, I can show you on my phone. You ready? Just people can see.
Yeah. I'll pull you back up. Oh, cool. So you guys see it where she is looking up at him? So think about, and we're going to bring this picture back up in a minute. Think about the angle and how how do I put this? Okay. The closest thing to your camera lens physically is going to be the largest thing emphasized in your photo. So look at where she is, the plane that her camera lens is on in that shot. And it's what's closest to it is what? It's the guitar, right? It's not his face. So if she had moved her focal point past the guitar into her background more to his face, the guitar would be blurry, but it would still be big in the frame because it's in the foreground. You guys understand that? So when we're thinking about rule of thirds and we're thinking about our depth of field, we have to really think about the plane that our camera is on and what is closest to it, right? And that's going to help us decide what we want to emphasize or look at first. That's really cool that someone captured you doing that. I need people to shoot me shooting because it's awesome.
I know. Everybody, when I post stuff like that, because everybody I work with, they can see how much I get into it. I'm rolling around on the ground, like, so I never get that. And that guy got it for me. And I was like, send me that, please, just so I can explain, you know. Sometimes it takes stepping out of your comfort zones in order to get the shot, you know, that you want, that you're present in that moment.
Exactly. I just want to bring this one back up because Kalia said it's cool how his shirt is striped and so is the wall and the different hues. Yes. So I want to keep emphasizing these other tips that we've learned throughout these series, which is the elements that are not in focus, in this case, color, light, and this how it moves through foreground and background. It helps catch your eye, the pink in his shirt, right? Compared to the orange on his face and the orange in the background. And even a little bit, you see that texture on the Winnebago creating that stripe effect. Even look at the lines on the guitar. Look at the direction of the guitar and the shape of it. It's all creating this pulled effect, right? So you have these, think of the browns, the oranges and the pinks. And even now I'm seeing it in his skin too. These are all tones of the same color that are mimicking throughout the whole shot.
Even the little like pieces on the guitar, how they're reflecting the sky, the blue from the sky too. Yeah, I didn't really notice it until now.
And then look at the blue in the back of the Winnebago. So again, getting back to that tip about color, when you can balance warm and cold colors against each other, you can really pop pictures. So what I'm going to do is
what he's wearing, what his hair color was. I feel like I got a little lucky there.
Oh yeah, sometimes when you see these elements, again, we show up to a scene with a why, this intention, this vision on what we want to create, but we have to be open-minded to letting the story unfold when we get there. If you had been so worried about getting this space perfectly photographed, you would have never had that fun of going down on the ground and realizing, oh, look, his hair. Who would have known the guitar player would have had red hair and the Winnebago was orange and he had a striped shirt? You know?
It's funny because one of the other photographers was more focused on taking pictures and photos of models in front of the actual walls, the painted walls. Yeah. And I came with the intention of really not knowing what I was going to get into, but it was going to be a cool creative vibe. And I was like, I didn't know my why yet. I didn't know what was happening, but I let it flow. And then I just got into it. And I was like, all right, this is probably going to be cooler than taking photos of people against these walls. I'm creating a different type of story about telling how the vibe of this place will be. Someone just playing guitar right next to the Winnebago, or, you know, stuff like that. So I wanted to tell that story.
Exactly. I love that. And that's the kind of photographers, you know, I think why you and I, you know, connect so much in the world of photography is we are more storytellers than directors and, you know, producers of perfect images. So there are plenty of incredible photographers out there, guys, who have very systematic, technical ways of shooting, and they have a look they're going for. And Alicia and I want to teach you how to be very much more open to letting it kind of happen on the fly. But in doing that, especially at the beginning of your curiosity and getting into this, in doing it naturally and not holding yourself in this perfect box of what it needs to look like, you're going to learn more, and it's going to help you figure out the direction you might want to go. You might if you had shown up to that event with Alicia, you might have realized you loved shooting against the wall, or you just wanted to photograph the beautiful artwork. And then you realize where photography kind of connects you to the type of work that you want to
Every
create.
time I grab my camera and step behind it or go to something like that where I know I know it's going to push me out of my comfort zone of that box we always put ourselves in as photographers. Or even in the beginning of learning photography, we always think, oh, there's a certain way to do it. There's a certain like mathematical equation we have to solve in order to understand what's right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. Like, and I completely, me and Danielle, force ourselves out of that way of thinking all the time. And that's why we want to explain that method and mission to you guys as well.
Yes. So rule of thirds is the easy way of looking at this storytelling tip. I don't know what's happening here. It's opening a bunch of them. Oh, I opened 2. Okay. So the Fibonacci spiral, you guys can Google it. I don't know the exact definition, but it's specifically that if you look at this middle one, it is basically how everything in nature is created and balanced. And it is a perfect mathematical equation that wherever this spiral goes, when it comes back around, the next turn is exactly a third. Do you see these? These are all thirds of each other. Third, a third, a third, a third, a third. So if you just, without going mathematical on, because, you know, I don't like math if you've ever been in my classes, and I know photography is a lot about numbers, but live wonderful way of thinking, not math. All I want you to look at is this spiral itself. And this is a great image because it's just showing some other examples. But let's look at, you know,
I just like the flow and the feeling of the spiral and that it connects everything in life. I think that's what I take away from it, and how you can apply it to your photographs.
And then, yeah, and I just want to show you guys now that I've shown you that, because I just pulled that up on screen sharing. So let me, I don't know how to stop sharing. How funny is that? Here you are. End sharing. Sorry. So I want to bring that picture back up because now think of that Fibonacci spiral, guys. Now look at how your eye, and I'm going to just use this tool to show you in a couple different ways. So if this is that middle point, that middle of the spiral, and you come out, you can see how your eye moves through the photo, right? So any way you go, maybe you start here and you go this way, and then your eye goes across the photo. So everywhere you look from here on out, until we get to one of the tips later on, which is a bit more challenging, I want you guys to get your focal point out of the middle and start looking at how, because you're not using the middle of the frame, when you move it to one area, what are you going to do with this other space? How are you going to create that connection through a spiral, or bring in something that helps balance out that secondary part of telling the story, right? We have these are awesome. I'm excited to see, you know, more. I'm sure you got tons of shots, but I'm excited to see more of the space and how it's all coming together. So if you guys are up in New Hampshire, we're not sure when we're doing it, but that is the goal, in the Boston and New Hampshire area. We're going to be bringing some classes up there this summer and fall. And just to close out, I found a couple cool shots. I want to show you guys one shot that I took to give you another perspective. Alicia's got these great portraits, right? And I keep pushing her to shoot and get these portraits up to show them off to you guys, because she shoots a lot more portraits right now than I do. And I love having that perspective on it. But I want to show you rule of thirds in a completely different way, okay? It's not a different way at all. Actually, it's exactly the same. It's just with a different kind of photograph. So 2 things that are really different here. One, we are not close up looking at a portrait, right? We are looking at a scene, a full scene, where the challenge in rule of thirds there is there's a lot more going on, right? So you're forcing yourself to really pay attention to how these elements are going to line up in a scene. And rule of thirds actually helps you lay the scene out better, okay? So obviously we have the guy and the boat, and notice how it's down. The other thing that makes this an interesting way of looking at rule of thirds is that it's a vertical shot. So when we go horizontally, it's easy to think of rule of thirds because we look at computer screens and TV screens, and that's how we see movies. We don't see vertically, we see from left to right. Vertically, sometimes you go, well, where's rule of thirds when I'm looking at something vertically? So pulling your objects into these bottom corners, or in a portrait, a lot of times a headshot, you're in the top of the shot. The head where the eyes are would be in the top of the frame. So now let's look at the shot and think of the Fibonacci spiral, right? So if this is your focal point, notice how the boat leads you through the rest of the shot, right? And then you have the element of the bridge that brings you in as well and kind of pulls you around.
I'm gonna go here so bad.
It is a very cool spot. This is Venice, Italy, guys, years ago, 2014.
Venice's water is very clear right now. They're clean and clear.
I've heard that too because of all the boats not being in the water. I will tell you though, these canals are not easy because those boats are always moving. Usually there's a lot of people on the bridges, and notice how close the canals are. So you really only get light into these canals between like 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Once it's like 2, 3 o'clock, the light is behind all the buildings. So it gets kind of dark in the canals. And this was one of those moments where I was like, I am staying right here. The light is gorgeous. I'm waiting for people to get off that, that bridge. And I'm going to see if I can get a shot of this guy. So rule of
I love
thirds.
that you brought up the vertical though, because it's very hard to understand even for me, when I shoot vertical. Where is my rule of thirds in those photos? It's difficult.
And it is. And you could even cut this image if we were to, let's see if I can do it. If you were to cut this image to only be like this.
Yeah.
You guys see, I know there's a green over top of it, but that's rule of thirds too, right? Like that, if I were to do a horizontal picture of just him. And, same goes for Alicia's picture here, just to, kind of bring it back up. This could be rule of thirds vertical, right? She could have gotten a little of his knee, a little bit more headroom with the Winnebago, and still pulled that focal point to the right. So, another fun challenge, this is a tip that's not really in our list this week, but it's a great thing to do anytime you're practicing. It's change perspectives. Okay. That's okay. Changing perspectives can also simply be about changing the direction that your camera is and going vertical with your shot and seeing if you can now look at the direction of light, play with color, look at your foreground, and lay out a rule of third shot in a vertical frame as well. So who's ready to really go play with rule of thirds? Who feels like they've got this new perspective or another great tip they can go out and practice shooting? Who's been shooting anyway in our group? We've got a great group of ladies here today. Who's been out there shooting and practicing? I've got someone on this list who's waiting to come in. She's watching this in her car before her private lesson. Oh, good. I knew she was going to say something. She's been practicing like crazy and getting excited about it. Good. Donna's been practicing.
On Facebook. Show us your photos. We want to see your rule of thirds and all the other fun you've been taking.
That's a great point. I'm going to type this in right now, guys. On Facebook, I want everybody, we're halfway through these fun classes, but this is definitely not the end, anywhere near the end of fun that we can have. So, on Facebook now, I'm going to give you the link. or you could just search for it. It's Live Wonderful Photo Community. If you aren't already in the group, this is a private group that is specifically for students who have not only enjoyed our classes, but they want that place where they can keep getting some inspiration and getting feedback. That's the real value of this, I think, is that everyone gets to share their shots and get feedback from everyone else. So here's the link. Sorry. Took me a minute. And that might not work either. Let me try another one. Because it was a bookmark shots or page. So there you go. It's facebook.com/groups/Live Wonderful Students. So join our group. It's free. People are posting almost daily. And this is where I want you guys to share your shots and tell everyone you've been having fun in these classes, even if you're just getting your cell phone out. We know it's easy to just tap on the screen and create a focal point with our cell phone. So use this rule of thirds or Fibonacci spiral, the golden rule of composition. Use it when you've got your cell phone out too, and share your photos on that group. I've got a couple of other great little announcements before we close out this class today. One is Alicia's coming this weekend, and we have an update to our classes. So as I'm saying this, I'm going to go over here and pull them. We are now going to, instead of hosting our group portrait photography workshop and photo editing class, instead of hosting them in person, I know a lot of people, I've had mixed reviews, and I know we are all still in this transitional stage as we're getting back to business. So what we've decided is, instead of hosting in person, we are still going to host these classes, but instead we're going to host them online. They're going to be all the same great information, but condensed into a fun 2-hour online class where you're going to get a chance to see Alicia and I together on the same screen. And we are going to be demonstrating our portrait workshop and all the great tips we have for beginner portrait photography, as well as we're going to put together a screen shared complete demonstration of how we use Lightroom. Donna says she's happy to hear that. Of how we use Lightroom to not only edit our photos, because that's huge, and I got to be honest, guys, even in our group class in person, rarely do we get time to dive in and show you how we edit. So this is key to our photo editing class we're going to do. And here, let me put all the link information up while I'm talking about it. So the links are there. Photo editing is going to be, the beginner portrait workshop, they're backwards on the link I just put up. The beginner workshop is going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's $50. In person, this is a $250 workshop. We're doing it for $50 online. It's from 10 to 12 p.m. The photo editing and organizing workshop with Adobe Lightroom is going to be from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So you have a good lunch break of 2 hours in between. That one's also $50 instead of $250. And like I said, we're going to actually show you and move through a complete edit. I'm going to bring up a raw file, and I'm going to show you how I edit this photo. Hopefully Alicia's going to do it as well. And what I'm excited to have her show you is not just photo editing, but specifically some cool retouching tips when it comes to portraits. So here's how we're going to really combine this as a full day fun. Starting off, how do we get great portraits of people in our lives, which is great if you guys are getting into any kind of business as well. We tell stories of people when we're marketing our businesses. And then from 2 to 4, we're going to be on the computer, which what I can recommend to you guys is you can watch the webinar on your cell phone and actually be on your computer if you want to walk through the demonstration with us. From this link, you will see another link where you can go to our website and learn all about what you're going to learn in Adobe Lightroom. And here, while we have you, let me just bring this class up now and show it to you, because I get it asked quite often, like, what do you learn? What is Lightroom? Okay, it's a computer program, and it's twofold. Okay, so for the first hour, talk about how to do a workflow and build a file directory where you guys can easily edit, look at and organize your photos. So we're going to take you from card to computer. And I have a little thing I'll show you guys. It's called a card reader. If you have not heard of a card reader, or you have not uploaded your photos yet to your computer, let me know now in the chat box, and we could talk later about how that, if you want to join the Lightroom class, join it anyway, because you will learn a lot about how to organize your photos on the computer itself, and how to get them from the card to the computer as quickly as possible using that card reader. We're also going to dive into organizing using keywords and understanding how to rate your images. So this is about studying your photos and picking the very best ones. How do we do that in a fun, organized, easy, efficient way? The second half of the class is where we're going to dive into photo editing.
It's very important
What's
to
that?
learn that too. Can you hear me?
And yeah, go ahead. And I just realized I'm gonna I want to screen share this, guys, so you guys can really see what I'm showing you.
Learning about the process of uploading and organizing your photos and bringing them into a program and exporting them is half the battle, with the whole editing process. Learning about this program is so amazing, and you have this opportunity to make your photo, tell your story even better by, learning about this program.
Exactly.
And
I call it the icing on the
creative, it gives you that freedom to be creative on how you want to tell that story with your photos. So I think this is such a valuable class in learning, where you can go next.
So I put the
photos.
Exactly. So the second half of the class, we're going to do a full demonstration on editing. And here's a couple examples. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're going to dive into the individual pictures. How do you look at the color, the light, and edit these photos to really make them pop? I like to call it the icing on the cake when we dive into editing. So both classes are going to be great. And if you have questions about the portrait workshop, that's right here as well. I'll put that link in here. These were the original pages on our website, guys. We teach this workshop regularly. Alicia and I, when we get together, we've been doing it for over a year now. And so in lieu of what's been going on, we want to give everyone the opportunity to be able to enjoy what you can do in both worlds, portraits and just photo editing, before we're quite ready to dive back in and get comfy together in the studio. So this is the page. That link is where you'll learn about what we're going to do and what we're going to demo for you in the portrait workshop that's there in the morning. So I hope you all can join us for these classes we have coming up. We are going to be starting in June. We have our next in-person beginner DSLR class. That one you can find at livewonderful.com/learn. Anytime, anyone who's interested in that class, /learn is where you'll get all the updates for upcoming classes. June 6th, we're doing that one. And June 13th, we're going to be doing a macro photography workshop and then our night photography at Lake Eola as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I get to pick Alicia up in just a few days. She'll be down here actually, I will be, you know what? I just realized something. I'm glad I remembered this now while I have you, everybody. So I'm picking you up on Thursday, right? Thursday or Wednesday?
Thursday morning, bright and early.
Thursday morning. So you guys, we will see you back here Wednesday at 12 p.m. We're going to have our dual screens up. But Friday's free creative tips class, that'll be here at noon, we will both be together in the same screen. And I'm not sure what that tip is yet, but we'll make sure we have a fun little demo for you since we'll be together for that one, okay?
Yeah.
So we'll see you guys here. Yeah. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. It'll get us ready for the portrait workshop and the editing workshop on Saturday as well. So thank you guys for joining us. It was great to see you all here today. I hope you love this tip. Seriously, rule of thirds. It's the to use it in almost every single shot I take.
Thank you. Don't worry, I'll be
Well,
wearing my
have
mask
fun.
and everything else.
Oh, she's strong. She's got a great immune system. She's healthy. She'll be
Right.
great. Yes, yes. She'll be great.
Oh, it's
We will see
mandatory.
you
You gotta
guys
wear your mask.
soon.
No flights.
Yeah.
All
We
right.
are all abiding by our guidelines and rules that our local and higher up officials are telling us, wearing masks, social distancing. So no worries there. When we get together, we'll make sure of it. Okay. Safe travels,
Thank you.
Alicia. We will
Thank
see everyone Wednesday at noon. Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you for joining us
Bye.
again.